Senator, the Attorney General wrote you a letter, or copied you on a letter that he sent to Mitch McConnell after the Minority Leader really leveled some tough charges as well today. And in this letter from Eric Holder to you, he says, since the September 11th, 2001 attacks, the practice of the U.S. government, followed by prior and current administrations without a single exception, has been to arrest and detain under federal criminal law all terrorist suspects who are apprehended inside the United States. The prior administration adopted policies expressly endorsing this approach. Is that true?
Well, first of all, I haven't seen that letter, and it's very telling that the Attorney General, in responding to a letter that Senator Joe Lieberman and I sent to him, released the reply to the press before I got to see it. But putting that aside, let me make two comments. First of all, Jose Padilla was held as an enemy combatant despite being an American and on American soil for a period of time. He then ultimately was charged in civilian court. Second, the previous administration made some mistakes. For example, they released individuals from Guantanamo who went back to Yemen and rejoined the fight. That was a mistake. I don't think that this administration should repeat mistakes made by the previous administration. I don't agree with the approach of the previous administration in some cases. The point is, we're at war with Al-Qaeda, and we need to act as if we're at war with Al-Qaeda. There is a difference between a foreign terrorist attempting to murder hundreds of Americans and a common criminal. There's a big difference, and the Department of Justice should not be making unilateral decisions. That's why I've introduced a bipartisan bill that would require the Department of Justice to consult with our top intelligence officials and with the Secretary of Defense before making a decision to put a terrorist suspect into the civilian court system. Doesn't mean that at times that might not be the right decision, but there certainly should be consultation first, and there was not in this case.
I just wanted to also ask you about Iran quickly. This was our conversation with Joe Biden yesterday when I asked him whether these executions in Iran and the prospect of demonstrations and actions against political prisoners and protesters in coming days should lead us to rethink our policy and lead us to think about regime change. This is what the Vice President had to say.
Yeah, I think the people of Iran are thinking about, the very people marching, they're thinking about regime change. When they acted as they did, when the first protests broke out and people were brutalized, they lost their moral credibility in their own country and around the region. They're sowing the seeds of their own destruction in terms of being able to hold on to power.
I know Ahmadinejad, President of Iran, has suggested perhaps reopening that nuclear exchange and suggested a prisoner swap for our 3 American hikers there. But do you think that time has run out for any kind of diplomatic engagement with Iran?
Clearly, this administration tried a new approach of engagement with Iran. I personally think they have very little to show from that approach. I think it's time to work with our allies around the world and come up with some tough sanctions to impose on Iran. I'm very concerned that the Iranian government is pursuing not only a repressive policy against dissidents, but also continuing its quest for a nuclear weapon. And I know the administration's also very concerned about that, but it appears that the president's efforts to engage Iran have not worked. I wish they had worked. And now it seems to me we need to work with our allies to come up with a tough sanctions regime.
Susan Collins, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Andrea.
And coming up.